as this goes. I don't know what color that shirt is underneath your sweater. Is it canary, harvest gold, or fall sunrise? And all the men are going, it's yellow. We'll dismiss the kids, go to Kids Corner. I'm kind of excited about, we're in the middle of this series on cultural clarity, and I think this is this might be the most important one today, of how the lens most of culture views events, and how I think Christians should view events. What I think is clear is that something is amiss in 2023. And it's not new. It was amiss in 2020, amiss in 2022. It's amiss now today. I would like to think, I hope that maybe the pendulum is way out here and is starting to swing back. I have a little bit of hope. It's not new, but in some ways it does seem worse. We live in a culture that suffers from a lack of love. I've been reading headlines just in the last couple of weeks. More women are childless than ever before. Now, and then I read that of all of that, 80% of those wish that hadn't been the case. Now, I don't know all the stuff in the stew that makes that happen, but I imagine a lack of love or lack of relationship is one of the drivers of that. I've also read that more men today are reporting extreme loneliness than ever before, and self-report living in what they describe as a loveless existence. And yet we live in this reality even as just go to a bookstore, or yes, there is still occasionally, you can find an occasional bookstore, or go to Amazon and type in books and type in love, and the titles are just unending. We report this in the middle of a time when we talk about love, perhaps more than ever. We pursue love more than ever. And it seems to be a cultural ideal. So what is wrong? Perhaps we're going about it wrong. That's kind of what I want to talk about. We say God is love. And I think we live in a culture where love is a god. And I think that clarifies the issue. I'm reading out of 1 John chapter 4, and we'll be talking about other places. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. So, dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. Here's what we do. If God is love, therefore, then everything where love is expressed must be of God. That's the equation I think we make, and I don't think it's true. I just thought of some lyrics this week. Some of these you'll be familiar with. All you need is love. Love is all you need, sang John Lennon. I can't remember. I know who sang. I don't know who the lead singer is. If you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with. I'm not sure that that's good advice. Around the same time, another group sang, What the world needs now is love, sweet love. We know these. Now there's some newer ones, but there's nothing greater than the rush that comes with your embrace. No one has ever said to me. All your insecurities, all the dirty laundry never made me blink one time. If you should ever leave me, though this life would still go on, believe me, the world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? Which you'd think is what Juliet said in Shakespeare, but that's not from Romeo and Juliet. I even have a book of, it has all these different wedding vows, traditional wedding vows, and it has 8 or 10 different, connotations. And there's one ultra-modern wedding vow that even says, I will be faithful as long as love lasts. There you go. I don't need to talk about that being bad advice. We just kind of know it. Love dominates our songs. Love dominates our lyrics. Love dominates our stories. We have whole cable television networks dedicated to love stories in movies. We have books and speakers teaching us how to find love and make it last. There are speakers that make hundreds of thousands of dollars that do seminars to try to teach men on how to approach a woman for a date. You have also speakers that spend lots of money, they get lots of money telling women on how to be approachable for a date. Apparently, this is a big issue out here. Love seems to be big business these days. Bigger in some neighborhoods than others, but we'll go past that. It dominates our thinking in so many ways. But there's a danger if we start equating love with God. Let me go through it. Often, love becomes the thing we pursue as opposed to the person or the relationship we pursue, where love happens to be the byproduct of a wholehearted behavior. We love the feeling. We live in a culture that in many ways confuses infatuation with love. I really do think that there's a lot of people who get to a point in life, and maybe they've been through a lot. It's been a hard year. Maybe there's been sickness. There's been a loss of job, or maybe you just kind of get stuck in the routine of life. And then all of a sudden, after years and years, you're 20 years in a marriage, or 25 years in a marriage. All of a sudden, you meet someone. There's someone you have a little spark with. You look forward to seeing them. And it's just kind of an innocent infatuation, I think, that we knew about years before in previous generations. We would smile. The older guy that goes into the diner and sits down, and the young pretty waitress comes up and says, "Oh, my favorite customer," and he says, "Oh, aren't you pretty as a peach?" And she, there's this little banter, and she's working for a tip, and he's happy for the attention, and he gives the tip, and it's just innocent. We've almost lost the sense of that. And now we almost assume that any such thing, and someone goes on, "Well, guess what? I love her now. And I can't help how I feel." We've kind of lost the sense of what love is, and we confuse infatuation with it. Often, if you go back and remember what it was like, sometimes I remember what it was like when Michelle and I were dating in college. She was in her senior year. She was a nursing student, and she had this community nursing thing she had to do. And so she had to get up, and literally she would because she was in this nursing, she could go into Ludwig Dining Hall and have breakfast early at 5:30 in the morning because she had to be in her car at 6 on the way to community nursing. And guess who met her for breakfast? And I worked every night till midnight. So I didn't get to bed till 12:30 or 1. But because she was there, I wanted to be sure I was there. And you look forward to it. And you were excited, and there was all this emotion and excitement and all this thing. And then you get married, and there's a great leveling off. And some people view that as, oh, I don't know what the problem is. There's not a problem. Do you know how hard it would be to carry that kind of emotion every day? It's exhausting. But you start to look back and you go through some pictures and you see with kids and this vacation and that vacation and this house when we lived there and this house, and all of a sudden there's something else that starts to build. There's this deep feel, there's this deep tie, this deep love that flows from a life that you've built that is greater than the emotion of that time. The problem is when we confuse love with God is there's something with love as the emotion. It enshrines me at the center of every experience. And life becomes about what I feel and what I experience. Love is at the top of the pyramid. And love is love. You see billboards that say that now. You see yard signs. Love is love. No, it's not. So then, every emotion of love is equal. This is dangerous. Some love builds up. Some love degrades. Love cares deeply for a sick spouse. Love goes extra for an ailing child. Or, because of the same word love, is used as an excuse for why I've left that spouse. Some love builds up. Other love destroys, or what we call love. So all love is not equal. Not everything that we apply that word to has the same value system. In some ways, a pursuit of love, if not thought about properly, removes all guardrails and character concerns. And we end up saying, I can't help how I feel. This is how I feel. I'm using language of 2023 today. I can't help how I feel. Do you want me to deny who I am? Even as Jesus says, he that will come after me, let him deny himself and pick up his cross. I love him now. I love her now. I must be true to myself. I'm using language of 2023. You hear it every day. Or now today, I have so much love to give. I'm a unique human being. I love Michelle, and I love Sheila, and I love Jane, and I love Mary. So we'll all live in the same house now. And if I have that idea, I want someone else to raise that to my wife because I'll get hit in the head with a pan. Rightly so. Some love builds up, some love degrades. When we pursue this experience as an end unto itself, it eventually gets to the point where it diminishes the other person. Trust me. I was about 4.5 when, because of love, that was what was said, a father decided didn't want to be a father anymore. Some love degrades. Some love builds up. When you chase after the experience, sometimes you forget the person that you're in relationship with. Here's some things that love does, and these flow exactly from the New Testament. Love serves. Love commits. Love sacrifices. Husbands, love your wives even as Christ loved the church and sacrificed himself for it. Love forgets about the self. If more of you means less of me, take everything. Here's what we were told in 2023. I've mentioned this before. It's been a thought that's been running through my head now for about the last year or two. And the more I think about it, the more I think it is literally the worst advice that anybody's ever thought of. And that's this. Before you do anything else, you have to love yourself. In a narcissistic world, that makes a lot of sense. That's not the Christian way. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your enemy. Even love the ones that persecute you. We're almost taught something else. When I get really, really, really in love with myself, it's amazing how diminished everybody else gets. The more I love myself, the more how little I'm concerned about what you like or what you want or how I can meet your need, because I'm worried about my need, because I love myself. I just don't think there's much value there. The things that have been most valuable in life to me are the people that I've served and sacrificed for and lived in relationship with. I think this is the central difference between the way Christ and the world approaches love. Love, to the Christian, love takes the self off the throne. In a world that's always trying to put ourselves on the throne. In the process of loving ourselves, we've forgotten how to love others. When we conflate God and love sloppily, love becomes our God. This is not new. This has been done again and again and again. It's a very simple statement that aptly describes, I think, what drives our culture today. Love is our God. Regardless of what we do, if we can say it's about love, then it must be celebrated. I'm not sure that's right. In fact, I'm quite certain it's not. The Bible tells us something very specific, and Christianity for 2,000 years has taught us something very specific. When we say love, we mean love that's grounded in a person. We do not equate God and love. We define love by looking to Jesus Christ. Philippians chapter 2. Your attitude should be the same as that of Jesus Christ, who being in his very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be held onto tightly, but made himself nothing. And taking the very nature of a servant, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. This self-giving is our model. Love is not something that happens to us. It's not something that we feel. Love is expressed through character. Love chooses how to proceed from here. I remember my wedding day. It was December 20th, 1986. It was about 42 degrees. It was cloudy. It didn't rain, didn't snow. It was actually pretty good. And the day went by as a blur. you kind of do your thing and you go up and you say the things and you go in the reception. And, I shook hands with everybody on the groom's side of the church, and I had to hug everybody on the bride's side of the church. And then we had reception and all this kind of thing. But I remember the wedding rehearsal the night before. I don't know what it was, but we got in front of everybody, and we were just dressed normally, and we were going through our vows. We practiced our vows, and there was something about the importance of those vows that choked me up on that Friday night. For better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live. You promise to love and honor and cherish and all those things. And I still remember about those from time to time. I remember about those moments. I remember meeting Michelle's dad and saying, listen, I want to ask your daughter to marry me, and I want you to know that, and I would like your blessing, and I want you to know that I got her, and I'll take care of her for the rest of my life. And there was something about that promise that's meaningful. See, love is not the emotion. Love is in that promise, is in that decision, and then in living it out. Love is exemplified in a person who took the worst of taunts and didn't fire back, the one who willingly went to a cross, the one who gave everything for you and I. In another of Paul's letters, Paul talks about love. We read this at weddings, and when Paul wrote it, weddings were not in his mind at all. That doesn't mean we shouldn't read this at weddings, but Paul is not talking about a wedding when he talks about this. There are people in the church at the time who said, listen, I want you to know that I'm just a little more spiritual than you are, because I have this talent, and I have this ability, and I have this gift, and I can do this, and God used me in this way, and I'm glad you're all here, but I want you to know that I'm just a little bit more spiritual and a little higher level than all you are. And Paul stepped in and said this: is everyone an apostle? Is everyone a prophet? Is everyone a teacher? Does everyone do miracles? Do all have the gift of healing? Does everyone speak in tongues? And of course, the implicit answer is no, no, no. And then he says the following sentence: but eagerly desire the greatest gift, and let me show you the most excellent way. To everyone there, regardless of what talent you claim. Then he says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it always rejoices with the truth, and it protects, it trusts, it always hopes, and it always perseveres. We have the guide post of what the Scripture is talking about. Love is simply what you do, not what happens to you. It is the decision you make, not just the emotion that you feel. There is a disease that has infiltrated modern culture. We think that we are the first to ever arrive at whatever place we are. We now know more than anybody else. So therefore, we can look back at every other generation and judge them very harshly. In all of these other places and times, if they would have just known what I know now, then they would have thought like I do now. We project ourselves back in every conversation and we win every time. That's arrogance. That's chronological and historical arrogance. And we forget that we've been down this way before, not once, but time and time again. We all live in a messy, broken world. And we come from messy and difficult places. We find ourselves in situations, and I would like to say every situation is just black and white, And the line is very thick and clear, and you'll easily know it, but I would be lying if I said that. Because we have people that are messy people in our lives, and they don't live in those thick, boundaried world. There is a way out, but it's never the way of pursuing our own ends. It is always through love, love that was exemplified and defined by a person. And patience and kindness and goodness, self-control, sacrifice, and finally, self-denial. I wish these values would come in vogue again.